Hey guys, it's Jazz. Welcome to another video. As you guys know, the end of Valentine's Day season is near, and we're about to have a lot of Scorpios be born in November. So I thought it was an appropriate time to talk about love, relationships, sex, virginity, all of that sort of stuff, while I tell you about some of my February favorites. So let's get into it. There's a cat literally typing on a typewriter right here. I'm totally unqualified to talk about relationships in any way, but there is something in Mexican culture that whenever you have like a problem or you want to get advice, you're supposed to go to your family members and have pláticas or like conversations. So I kind of wanted to have like a plática with you guys. That's like, the grammar's like totally wrong probably, but I don't know how to Spanglish with that word. I wanted to go ahead and have like a little heart-to-heart conversation, and maybe you guys can learn from my painfully, horrifyingly awkward and like slightly traumatic experiences, and maybe you won't have to make some of the mistakes that I did, because I made a lot of mistakes in my relationships, in my dating life, that I don't wish on anyone. Okay, please stop typing. Okay, so let's get right on into this. So, since it's February, I really like exploring my femininity. So I like to experiment with things like new makeup, and it's also my birthday month. So yes, I am an Aquarius, if you guys can't tell from like how weird and awkward I am, but I am an Aquarius. But one of the things that I got for my birthday, it was this palette. It's the Natasha Denona Retro palette, and it quickly became one of my favorite palettes ever. And this palette is all about burgundies, and it has a very burgundy color story. I feel like a YouTuber. Like, I feel like a beauty YouTuber right now. Yeah. But it's got a very burgundy color story, which I think fits my complexion really well, and I really love the looks that I was able to make with this palette. So if you guys can see my eyes, hello, I'm gazing into your soul. I'm sorry. This is what my eyeshadow looks like today. I'll close my eyes, and it is so awkward to speak with your eyes closed, so I apologize. But I hope you guys can see the colors, and I always ruin my eyeshadow with eyeliner because I refuse to not wear eyeliner. I love wearing eyeliner. My birthday was like literally like last week, but I didn't really do anything for it because I'm one of those people who gets like really depressed when around their birthday. Yes, so fun to be around, right? But yeah, I don't know if anybody else feels that way. Like, does anyone else just get extremely depressed and existential around their birthday? Because I 100% do. I'm just like, I got older, and now what? Like, what is my life gonna be? What are my goals? What is my future? What is existence? What is life? Like, what does it mean to be a human being? I don't know. I still don't know, and maybe I won't know next year either. Anyways, so the first color here is Glitz, and I'm gonna swatch like an old school beauty YouTuber because I want to. This is Andy, and I thought that this would be a good time to talk about beauty standards because we are all humans and there are beauty standards for us. So I don't know if you guys can see from the camera, but I am swatching on a totally hairy arm. The horror! The horror! My God, everybody call James Charles. There's a makeup emergency happening. This is Jude. I wanted to talk about body hair specifically because I feel like we've been having this discussion for quite some time, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit more. As somebody who grew up a very hairy person, to let y'all know, I am half Iranian and half Mexican. So I am 100% hairy all over my body, and it's given me really nice, long, luscious hair and nice eyebrows, and I'm happy about those things 100%. But it wasn't always super easy growing up being a hairy girl, and maybe a few of you guys will also relate to this. I remember being in middle school and somebody asked this boy if he had a crush on me, and he was like, no, I would never have a crush on her because she has sideburns and a unibrow. And and to this day, I stay shaving my sideburns. And of course, like, the beauty standard isn't to have a unibrow. So obviously I be plucking those hairs, and I go to the brow salon and get my shit threaded, which is very painful. But you know, I understand that that's somewhat of a beauty convention, just not the norm that we see. So if anything really deviates from that norm that we see, it's like explosion for most people's minds. But yeah, I remember a guy told me that I heard a lot of guys also say similar things in middle school about other girls who also had unibrows. It was like a couple of like hairs in the middle, but not that it would even like matter. It's still really mean and wrong to make fun of something that somebody can't control and that they can't change super easily. And being hairy is one of those things. I remember being in middle school and sitting in class, and the girl across from me, she would look at my arms and she's like, "Oh my God, your arms are super hairy." And I was like, yeah, they are. And then I felt so like ashamed about that. And I remember going home and I shaved my arms for the first time, which is quite a process. And like the regrowth period for arms, man, it gets to the point where it's like all like prickly and stuff. And I always hated that because I felt like if anybody ever like brushed against my arm, they would have to feel the little cactus prickles, and it would be so embarrassing. So, and it was, and that totally did happen. But the next day I remember I went back to school and I sat there and she was like, "Oh my God, did you shave your arms?" And it like was once again like so much like shame, and like she was obviously being like a bully about it. And I just learned in that moment that no matter what I did, I wasn't going to be the standard of beauty, because I was either a girl with hairy arms or I was a girl who had to shave her arms. And I know that some of you guys can relate to this, so I'm so sorry that you've had to go through this, but I think it's really interesting that there is now this standard of beauty, or there has been for quite a while, since like World War I, where there's like this standard of beauty that women need to be hairless, where they need to like shave all the time, and they need to like maintain this illusion that they're like this hairless mammal. This notion that body hair is unhygienic comes from like post World War I, when the razor companies, they didn't have, all the men were off to war, so they weren't making enough money, so their marketing team was in their board meeting like, what should we do to make some more money now that all of these men are gone? How can we get women to use razors so we can make our money, so we can maintain our profit margins? And they were like, "Oh, I know, let's traumatize generations of women for years to come by saying that body hair is unhygienic." So because of some decision made in post World War I, we're sitting here in like 2022 still getting bullied for having hair on our arms. This is Groove and Opart. And this is a really cool shade that was really anticlimactic because it like disappeared. That one is Psychedelic. And Go Go. This is Patty. And Swing. This is Nude Mauve. And Rebellion. And there's two more shades. This is, where can I put it? My wrist, maybe? That's Hello. And then there's one more shade, and I'll do it on this arm. And that is Amara. So here's the retro palette. Sorry, I'm not a very good beauty YouTuber. But yes, this is Amara. What do beauty YouTubers do? Like, what do I do with my arms? Anyway, enough of me being awkward about this. But that's a Natasha Denona palette, and it's what I'm wearing on my eyes. I am wearing some blush. I don't know if you guys can tell. It's this blush by Too Faced. It's really cute. I think it's very cute for Valentine's Day. And it's the Too Faced Sweethearts blush, and this one is in Sparkling Bellini, which is a nice peach color, which I think looks really good on olive skin tones. So that's why I got it. And the favorite that I use for my face, I don't like to wear a lot of foundation. I used to growing up in high school, like every single day I would wear foundation, but I stopped pretty much in college, mostly because I was really lazy, and excuse the eyeshadow that is like making this dirty, but this is the Rare Beauty concealer, and I use the shade 230N, which is a little lighter than my real skin tone, but it's kind of good for brightening the under eye circles, which I have a lot of. And then I kind of spot conceal and blend it out with a brush, and that tends to be good enough for my base. I'm honestly like way too lazy to put on like a whole face of foundation at this point. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of blending, and then like I don't want to stare at my skin texture for that long. So doing the concealer method is a lot faster, and it makes me feel a lot better about myself. And for the last makeup favorite, I'm wearing Bite Beauty. I'm wearing a lipstick by Bite Beauty. It is the Power Matte Soft Matte Lipstick, and this one is in Plout. It's a plum color. It looks like this, and I am wearing it on my lips today. What else can we talk about in beauty standards? I think that talking about makeup is one thing, and how a lot of women get shamed for wearing makeup. A lot of women get shamed for not wearing makeup. It's such a weird thing. I remember once I showed this TikTok that I had posted that went viral, that I deleted actually, because it was like kind of about feminism, and then there was a bunch of people like fighting in the comments. And I remember I showed one of my guy friends, the video, and the first thing that he said was, "You're wearing so much makeup," or "You're wearing too much makeup. Are you a makeup artist?" And I just like could not believe that I was trying to like show him something that I made and like have a discussion about it. Like the first thing that he commented on was my appearance. So that wasn't great. And then there are instances where like I'll go to work and I'll have a male coworker be like, "Oh my god, you are so pretty without makeup." And like once again, it's like I just walked in the door. How are you? Good morning. Like this is what we're doing today. Like nope, the first thing that they comment on is what I look like, and they feel the need to give their opinion about like what I am wearing on my face. As if that is the only value that I have as a human being, is how attractive I look. And as if that's the only thing that I would care about that day, is how attractive did I look? Do I look nice? Like, maybe I don't care what you think about my appearance. I feel like it's a lose-lose situation for women that decide to wear makeup, because if you wear the makeup, you might look nice to some people, put together to some people, but there's always going to be somebody out there who tells you that you need to take it off to be pretty, or that you don't need it, as if you're wearing it for them. Because I've never felt the need to wear makeup for anybody else. I like wearing makeup because it's fun. I like it because it makes me feel good about myself, because I get to put cool colors on my eyes and it creates a different effect. And I think that's cool, and it's within my control. You get to experiment with different colors, and it just becomes a really fun hobby to do. When it comes to wearing makeup, you should also just wear it no matter what, and not care what anybody has to say about it, because you'll never win. Caring about what other people think will literally never bring you happiness, ever, because there's always going to be somebody out there who wants to criticize you. Moving on to my next two favorites. They are books, and they are these. I loved these books so much. So this is a duology, I guess. I mean, I hope that it can become a trilogy. I'm looking at you, Adib Khorram. That's the author of these books. So the first book that I have here is Darius the Great Is Not Okay. And I love this book so much. I can't stop talking about this book because I am just obsessed with it, because I finally feel like seen in a novel. This book is about Darius. He is a high schooler, and He's clearly not okay, but he is a fractional Persian, and I'm a fractional Persian, so I really feel very seen and represented by this book in particular. So it does deal with some of the issues that fractional kids go through. It deals with being in that middle section where you feel like there's a culture that's a part of you, but because you live in the US, you're kind of disconnected from that culture in a way where you're not in that culture completely. And so a lot of people might not see you as that culture. So in Darius's case, a lot of the white kids call him terrorist. They bully him, they single him out, and it's because he's different from them, which is really unfortunate, which is definitely something that I think that a lot of Middle Easterns have really faced, especially after 9/11, especially in the US. But honestly, it looks like around the world, it's pretty much a constant that Middle Easterns get singled out, they get typecasted, they get called terrorists. They're all grouped in with being Muslim, and then Muslims are also under attack because of Islamophobia throughout the world. So it is an unfortunate and complicated situation, but I'm really glad that this book got made, because I finally have something out there that represents how I felt about my culture and growing up being a fractional Persian. So it was lovely for that. It's packed full of Persian culture, Persian cuisine, the way there's small cultural things and the way that people speak that it talks about. And it's a really, really great book. So you'll like passively learn about Iranian culture when you read this book. And that is so great because it's finally a book where Iranians are painted in a really positive light. Another thing that I really like about this book is the way that it talks about depression and mental illness. So Darius has clinical depression, and the way that this author talks about depression in the story, it's not a hopeless depiction of depression the way that it is in a lot of young adult novels that are about depression. It's very optimistic, which I really love about the novel, and also it just talks about how depression is always with Darius and he's always coping with it, but life goes on and he's able to work through some of his depression, some of his anxiety. And it also talks about how other cultures view mental illness, which I thought was really interesting and very accurate. But he goes to Iran and his grandfather asks him, what do you have to be depressed about? Why are you depressed? And I will say that that is such an accurate reaction. If any of you guys are children of immigrants, then like, you know about this reaction because it is 100%. Because it is 100% what they'll say if you ever say that you're depressed or something like that. The last thing that I love about this novel is that it's a story about platonic love. So in this book, it talks about how Darius goes to Iran and then he becomes friends with Sohrab, and he's like the boy next door to his grandparents in Iran. And it's just truly a very simple, nice story about friendship, which I love so much. There are a lot of young adult stories about romance, about love, but it's always centered on romantic love or like sexual attraction. Instead of just having stories that are about platonic love, it's something that I feel like in American society, we don't really center in our lives. Like if you go to a bar and you start talking to somebody, I feel like the first thing that people think of is like, oh, they must be trying to flirt. And it's never about trying to get to know somebody and trying to establish a kind of friendship. It's always kind of like implied that if you go to a bar and you talk to somebody, it's about flirting. And I hate that. I feel like there's not a lot of places for people, especially like adults or even like young adults other than school, to go and like meet friends and to have friendships, because friendships can be full of so much platonic love. And I feel like we just don't dive into that. We don't really focus, or we don't really center that in our lives in American society in a way that I feel like we should. I wanted to talk about platonic relationships in general, and specifically like platonic relationships with men and women, because there's a lot of things that I see online about this. A lot of opinions are out there. So I want to know what you guys think. Like, let me know what you think. Do you think that men and women can be platonic friends? So I'm going to give you all my opinion on this. I really think that they can and they should, but it's really rare that it happens. I see a lot of sentiments online, especially when it comes to dating, that there are a lot of women who feel uncomfortable or think it's a red flag when their significant other, who's a guy, is friends with women. And I want to counter this by saying I think it's a big red flag if you're with a guy and he can't have platonic relationships with women, because it shows me that if this man is unable to be friends with women, he really just sees women as sexual objects, and he doesn't actually see women as people, as somebody, as a person who can be their friend without thinking about them in a sexual way or in a non-platonic way. So that's what I think about it. And I think it's really, really difficult though. I really do understand what women talk about when they say that they feel uncomfortable with that, because I think it's really difficult for men to be friends with women and have the friendship be completely platonic. I don't want to promote like pick me culture and that sort of thing where you want to be friends with a lot of guys. I think that being friends with a lot of guys puts you in a lot of really dangerous situations. I found that it's really difficult to actually be friends with guys, mostly because every guy that I have tried to have a platonic friendship with, except for one, they have all told me at some point that they had a crush on me. And I think that that is absolutely soul shattering. And that's a really awful thing, because these guys are unable to see me as just a person, especially if a guy like gets to know you and then like feels like because you guys have a friendship, because you can talk to each other, that for whatever reason means that you're going to be a great couple, because it really doesn't. It really, really doesn't. And I wonder if any of you guys have had this sort of sentiment or have felt like this before, where you feel like you just can't be friends with guys because they will have a crush on you, think that you have a crush on them, think that you're in love with them. And it's just such an unfortunate situation, because I think that there's been times where I really just wanted to be friends with a guy and I really cared for them in a very platonic friendship way. And I felt that friendship love towards them, but they could not comprehend that I didn't have a crush on them, that I didn't want to be romantic with them, that I didn't find them like sexually or romantically attractive. What do you guys think about it? Do you think that men and women can really be friends? Do you think that they can be platonic? My next book favorite is the sequel, because of course I read them like back to back because I just could not resist. I became obsessed with Darius's family, and I just had to read more about them. So this is Darius the Great Deserves Better. And something that really stood out to me about this book, and I'm not going to talk about it too much, but something that stood out was that they really talk about that time in your life when you start to feel some pressure to be in a sexual relationship. Start to talk about Darius navigating his first relationship and him deciding whether or not he's ready to really have his first sexual experience. I just feel like it's really important for young adults, for teenagers, to be able to read something where they're finally told that it's okay if you want to stay a virgin. It's okay if you don't want to have sex in high school. It's okay to wait until you're ready. And honestly, people say things like experience is the best teacher when it comes to relationships, and that you should date a lot of people, and they really encourage like casual dating, and it's like you should go and have multiple sexual partners and see what you like and see what you don't like. And it's like, I don't really agree with that. I don't think that experience is the best teacher. To be quite honest, I really wish I didn't have some of the experiences that I had in my past. And a lot of people will tell like trauma survivors or survivors of abusive relationships and stuff that it's like, oh, well, you really learned from it, at least you can take something away from it, like you're a changed person now. And I just don't agree. I really wish I didn't have some of those really traumatic relationships that I had. I really wish I didn't. And I think that's kind of the reality for a lot of survivors of that. So I guess what I'm really trying to say is that you shouldn't ever feel pressured to do anything that you're not ready to do. There are times when Darius's partner will kind of push his boundaries, and the thing that I really like that this book talks about is really enforcing your boundaries even if you are in a relationship. I think that there is, once again, a lot of societal pressure and just pressure that's created like in the relationship dynamic to go along with whatever your partner wants because they must want the best for you. They must love you, and so it should be okay. Whatever they do, they're entitled to it because you're together. And I think that that is 100% wrong, and don't do that. Just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean that your partner is entitled to anything regarding you, regarding your body. A relationship should be about mutual trust and love. Part of loving somebody and trusting somebody is respecting their boundaries. So in a relationship, it's never okay if your partner pushes your boundaries and doesn't respect what you want. That's never okay. Even now, there are some places that, they don't acknowledge that marital rape is a thing. And that just goes to show you that this idea runs so deep even into our politics and our policy. If you're in a relationship, just make sure that you know your boundaries and you make sure that nobody ever tries to push those boundaries too far. And if they do, to let them know and communicate. And if it happens again and it becomes a pattern, then it's probably best to let that person go. Anyways, the last favorite that I don't have here, but it's a show. I've been really into watching the Great British Baking Show lately, and I love it because it's very wholesome. I love Noel so much. I mean, he has that like Severus Snape energy that I didn't know I still needed, but he really brings it, and I love it so much. It's so wholesome. I love watching people bake. I really loved Crystal. She was like my favorite baker so far. I'm like watching everything that's on Netflix right now because it's really good stress relief, and I just love it so much. It's such a wholesome like game show or competition show, and I love how positive everyone is all the time. It's so nice. It's so refreshing. I like can't stand when like game shows are like toxic and the competition is just like, I don't know, when the game shows are toxic and they're mean and the judges are rude. Like, we don't need that. Like, life is already like that. Life's already judging you so hard and making things very difficult. I'm so glad that there's a show out there that is focused on positivity and being wholesome. And I love that everybody's like friends at the end of it. That is so cute, and I love it so much. And Noel makes it a million times better. I love him. With that being said, I hope you all had a very happy Valentine's Day. And yeah, I'm really excited to keep making content for you guys. I know it's been a while. I had kind of a rough time this last month. I went through a pretty bad depressive episode, but I feel a lot better now, and I'm excited to keep making content, and I'm really excited for the content that is to come. So with that, if you guys like this video, if you guys like me, then press that subscribe button and you'll see more. I'll see you guys later. Bye!